You're listening to Awards Magnet, a Gold Derby podcast. Subscribe for new episodes on Mondays and special monthly mailbag episodes. Email us at slugfests@goldderby.com. Now, on to the show. Welcome back to Awards Magnet. I'm Christopher Rosen. I'm joined by Joyce. And Joyce, it's time for us to talk about the Emmys comedy categories.
Which was the best win of last year's Emmys.
One of the best wins of any award show we've had since I've been doing this with you, Joyce. That was maybe my favorite award show moment, was Hacks winning Best Comedy over The Bear, because it was a genuine surprise.
I think about it not infrequently since that day.
We're so rarely surprised here because, like, even not even to be like we're know-it-alls. I'll speak for me, not even me to be like I'm a know-it-all at all. But I was like, you know, most of the time we know, like, have a ballpark estimate of like what will win, right? Like we kind of have an idea. And obviously Hacks always was maybe win competitive, but nobody was really taking it seriously to win over The Bear.
Well, it was also like what happened that evening as well with Liza winning over Hannah, right? Like who would have thought that Liza would win and The Bear would lose series? So we're still relitigating the past, even though it's just not the future.
It's just hard not to. So that's what we're coming into. So now we're coming in with, and then the funniest part is The Bear lost for its incredibly good, strong second season. And the third season that people did not love, which potentially hurt its second season, is now up for an Emmys this cycle. We're still talking about The Bear season 3. We have Hacks coming back, Joyce, in April. I doubt we could break any embargoes, but I know you've watched some of it.
Yes, I've seen 6 episodes of Hacks. Cannot say anything currently. I want to, but I can't.
Okay. No hints. Nothing. All right. I don't want you to get into trouble. Hacks coming back. We have a couple of new shows. The Four Seasons, Joyce, on Netflix. Still in
Is that going to be your
now.
your new fave?
Again, I don't know what I could say and not say, but it was great. So I was very into that. Only Murders off its SAG Ensemble win, a complete shocker.
And it had 2 wins because Marty also won. So that was great.
Unexpected in both cases. I don't think a lot of people were thinking that at the SAG Awards. The show, The Studio, Joyce, which premieres this week. We're recording this ahead of time.
Your current new fave.
Just a fantastic show. I think will do incredibly well. Shrinking held over from the winter, where it was maybe more well received for its second season, certainly. I think a lot of people really enjoyed that season. So just a lot of shows, a lot of comedies. This feels just off the top, not even mentioning Nobody Wants This, another holdover. Just off the top feels a lot stronger than last year to me. All the categories actually do, maybe with the exception of limited series, which we'll talk about probably next week. But everything feels really strong this year. I feel like a lot of shows, a lot of returning faves.
I mean, like the comedy race is not that much different from last year's. Like there's just some shows that are not eligible from last year, like Herb and Reservation Dogs and Palm Royale. But it's not like almost a near turnover like drama is. Like we still have our stalwarts here.
What I would say is the shows that are not here and then replaced are better, I think, personally. So.
That's also your recency bias too.
No, I mean maybe a little, but these shows.
I mean, remember like last year, Palm Royale was your fave at this time.
Was it though, or was I doing interviews?
It was. You fell in love with it. We all remember the 3 stages of Chris watching a TV show.
Refresh the memory, Joyce, for those who are new listeners.
You start hating it, and then you slack me about like how much it sucks.
Yes.
And then like midway through, you're like, oh, like so-and-so, like one aspect of it is like good, or like 2. This is the best part. And then by the end of the season, you're like, this is the greatest shit ever. Like 3. New fave. Yeah.
Definitely true. No lies detected there for the Chris stages of watching a show.
This happened. The most famous incident of this was Bad Texts, aka Conversation with Friends.
A show no one has talked about or thought about since that Emmy cycle, but I really enjoyed in the end. Joe Allen, really strong. That was when he was still with Taylor Swift, Joyce, and I interviewed him and I asked him where he kept his Grammy.
And he did not appreciate that. Yeah,
he was not into it. No, not super into it. No, can't say he was. All right, let's do our comedy predictions, Joyce. So that's I'm very excited. I'll go first, and then you can tell me. This is seemingly most people have the top 8, and I was trying to figure out what to do to not have the top 8, and here's what I came up with. Though it feels wrong, I would say, but here's what I got: Hacks, The Bear, Only Murders, The Studio, Abbott Elementary, Shrinking, Nobody Wants This, and The Four Seasons.
Both of your new faves.
The studio is great. It's coming out now. Seth Rogen, obviously, big promotional push from Apple, playing a studio executive. And the Four Seasons choice, people maybe don't even know it's coming out yet because it's not been really officially announced.
Well, it hasn't. Yes, the actual date has not been announced,
Yes.
but it is in May. And if you watched or listened to Amy Poehler's new podcast,
Yes.
Good Hang, her first guest was Tina Fey, and Tina talked about the show as well and how Coleman Domingo directed one episode, and it had her brushing her perfect hair, and in the edit he turned down the volume, and she's like, no, turn it back up because everyone needs to hear me brush my perfect hair.
So the show is
yeah.
Tina Fey, Lang Fisher, and Tracy Wingfield, right? Co-created it. And it's got Tina Fey, Steve Carell, Will Forte, Coleman Domingo. It's very funny, very good, based on the Alan Alda movie.
It's an adaptation of the movie, yes,
with Carol Burnett. So we'll talk more about that. But those are the shows I got. Those are the 8.
I have Hacks, The Bear, Only Murders, Abbott, Shrinking, Nobody Wants This, What We Do in the Shadows, and The Studio, which is the top 8.
Correct. So What We Do in the Shadows just feels like should get in, right? Has gotten in previously. It's the final season now, right?
Yes, it's over.
I mean, that's what I mean. This is for the final season. Should get in, right? Like, no problem. And then I was like, I don't know, like, it could just be like this year's reservation dogs, or I was like, it could just be it's on What We Do in the Shadows, or maybe one of these Netflix shows break in. The funny thing is, I was actually thinking of dropping Nobody Wants This instead of the Four Seasons because I didn't think it was super strong in the winter. But maybe that's foolish, and they'll just get in based on likability and mass volume, and people have watched it.
It was not. It missed all the top guilds. Like, it missed SAG Ensemble. It got the individual noms for Kristen and Adam, and this DGA. And WGA, it only got the new series
Correct
nomination. So, and which one did I not name? Oh, PGA, of course, duh. Right. So it had a weak guild showing, so I think it's really right now, like, it needs to coast on the visibility of it being such a breakout hit in the fall, and it's very likable, very easy to watch. Right, so like that could help, but I would not be surprised if it missed in the end, just because it has not displayed strength with the industry yet.
Correct.
And then with What We Do in the Shadows, like, it's gone in before, obviously, multiple times, and I'm actually emboldened by its. Remember the Ace Eddies after the Oscars? Yes. Yeah, it happened on March 14th. It won Ace.
I know.
Over 2-time defending champion, The Bear.
So maybe I should put it in and drop Nobody Wants This. I'm going to do that then. I'm doing it live. I'm putting it back in. And I'm going to keep Four Seasons because while it's a later show, it's May release, which we said is like, tough sometimes, right? Because people have already gotten used to things. Maybe they're not going to catch up. I think the reasons I would say, again, I don't know what I could say or what embargoes there are, but if Tina Fey's talking about it with Amy Poehler, certainly I could mention a few things. It's only 8 episodes and they're all like 30 minutes. So it's an incredibly easy watch. And it's all people who are incredibly likable that you like. And I think it could get a writing. I always think of, like you always say too, like the writing nominations are always a strong indicator of like support. And I feel like it could get at least one writing nomination for at least one episode that I'm very high on. Could get some actors into. So I think maybe it would be the stronger show over Nobody Wants This. But at the same time, the only thing that's given me pause to go all in on it is the release timing, right? Because it is late, but we'll see. It also maybe it's not even here in the end, because it could also presumably, I guess it could be a limited series, right? If they're like, kind of like we've seen previously, like Beef maybe, or something like that.
Yeah, but I mean, the conversations I've had about this seems to indicate currently comedy.
Yes, everything is pointing towards comedy. I'm just saying, like we saw like last year, these shows can move. There's always flexibility.
Well, yes, obviously, and there's a deadline, but like currently the plan is comedy.
Yes, I think that's obviously. So I'm going to keep it in. The only thing giving me pause is the release date, but we'll see.
Well, like Tina also said something on the episode with Amy. Like, she was like, she said the show is not like joke heavy. So she's
Correct.
like, if you're expecting that, like, like that might be a turnoff for some people if you're expecting like punchlines and stuff, like a 30 Rock or like like a Girls Five Eva, even just like jokes on jokes on jokes. She's like, that's not the type of vibe of the show. But I mean, it was part of like a longer conversation about like how she went back to work in the fall on this, and she wanted to work on something with just like nice people and like a calm time, and that's like the whole vibe of the show.
I will say this: it's definitely not 30 Rock, but it is absolutely hilarious at times and like very much a comedy of manners. But I don't think it's much dissimilar to like if you look at these other like none of these shows are really like 30 Rock anymore, but it's definitely the vibe is more like a upscale. Nobody wants this, I would say, or like even Hacks, that kind of vibe where it's like there are jokes on Hacks, but it's not like 30 Rock jokes, right? Like it's funny, but it's not like bang 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 kind of comedy, I guess.
No, but like that's I think like what she's saying is like that's what you might expect from her
Right.
comedy.
Right.
So, but Netflix has a lot of shows in this category anyway.
So
like
many.
they have A Man on the Inside, which just
Yes.
kind of feels like a Ted Danson play.
That's what I thought
at
we'll
this
talk
point.
about when we get to actor, sure.
And then they also have The Residents here, which is also like that could be a limited thing too, but like everyone involved has talked about like wanting to do a second season.
And I also felt like that maybe would be more of an acting thing too, which we'll talk about. I don't know, but maybe not as much series. The other shows that we didn't mention, I guess, quickly. Agatha All Along is a comedy. A lot of laughs in that one, Joyce.
Sure.
Somebody Somewhere, which I know people are really passionate about. Not sure it has enough to break in here.
Yeah. That I think like its stands are hoping it, gets in like Reservation Dogs last year. I don't know. I feel like it was a little bit more open last year for Reservation Dogs. So, and then there's also Poker Face, which is doing a very funny thing.
Explain, Joyce.
It has 12 episodes for season 2.
Yes.
And it's going to premiere on May 8th, a week after the 4 seasons, with 3 episodes, and then weekly drops, which means it's only going to have 6 episodes eligible for this cycle.
Interesting.
So it qualifies as a regular series because this is its 2nd season, and you don't just need 6 episodes to qualify as a comedy series or drama. So only its first 6 episodes from season 2 will be eligible for this cycle, and then the other 6 will be eligible for next year's cycle.
A bold strategy, as they would say.
Yes.
Let me give you 2 new shows and one show that I think deserve mention, but I'm not sure if they'll make it. But I could see breaking through, depending on how people respond to like some of these other shows. Et Toi, Joyce, Amy Sherman Palladino's ballet comedy.
Yeah, that's coming in April. So that is like Amazon's big thing.
And so year. I think it's underpredicted right now because I'm not sure people know. They released photos of it in kind of like a Vanity Fair first look, so you could read about it. No trailer yet or anything. I could see that breaking through, obviously, because of the pedigree. And certainly, like you said, it's Amazon's top priority, so they're going to push it. And, even though it's a new show, it's got a lot of, recognizable creatives behind it, similar to the 4 seasons. The other one was Mid-Century Modern, I think could be a thing coming soon.
That's Hulu. That's more like old school vibes.
Yes, like but maybe people like comedy. Old school vibes. Maybe they wanted Golden Girls for 2025.
I mean, maybe. Yeah. It's so that has a month on Et Toi and like these other shows we just mentioned. Mm-hmm. So I do wonder like how much the release dates for some of these will affect them because as we know, the old norm of dropping like late April and May to be the newest kid on the block is not working anymore because there's just so much content now.
I think if I'll tell you back to the 4 seasons, if it was anyone other than Netflix and also anyone other than like Tina, I think people obviously pay attention to it because it's Tina Fey and Steve Carell and it's on Netflix. So I feel like that is going to elevate it above some of these other shows, which are no disrespect to these shows, but they're not Tina Fey and Steve Carell on Netflix, right? Like that kind of thing. So, but I do worry about that date, like I said. And then the last one I was thinking of was St. Denis Medical, Joyce.
Talk about old school broadcast NBC. I mean, like they're trying.
And it's very likable.
This also kind of feels like, remember when you predicted Colin from Accounts? It's like
there was a hot second there, yeah, where I was into Colin from Accounts. All right, let's go to comedy actress. This one, Maybe also fraud. I don't know. There's a lot of options here. I don't have the top 5 in the odds. Based on what I've just been saying, you could probably guess at least one person I have in here. But I have Gene Smart for Hacks, Iowa Debris for The Bear, Quinta Brunson for Abbott Elementary, Uzo Aduba for The Residents, Kristen Bell for Nobody Wants This, and Tina Fey for The Four Seasons.
You're just going to go 4 seasons down the line.
Not down the line, but here for sure. I was worried. I was honestly debating between Kristen and Selena Gomez for my last slot, but I kept Kristen Bell just because I do think people like her, that kind of thing. Sometimes it's not a popularity contest, but it sort of is, and that was part of her.
I mean, she's never been nominated before.
I know, but like now she's in a show that could be nominated. You know what I mean? Like it's like she has the opportunity to be, and people like her, so I think that'll help her.
I mean, like The Good Place was nominated, and they didn't nominate her. They nominated her co-stars last season.
Well, yes, but it's a different field, and also not as popular. I don't think as Nobody Wants This in the mass. I still think Good Place was more of a niche kind of comedy compared to Nobody Wants This.
Right, but they still nominated her non-Ted Danson co-stars. Like it could have just like if it was just like a Ted thing, it's like okay, fine. But they did Darcy and William, so and no K Bell. But I have Jean, Io, Quinta, Selena, Kristen, and Natasha Lyonne.
Wow, you went with Natasha Lyonne.
I had always had her here, like even, for months, like even before Poker Face was dated. Speaking of people who are well-liked, she's well-liked.
The most well-liked, yeah. People.
I mean, remember like last Oscar season, like
his 3 daughters, let's go.
Yeah. I mean, she won a couple critics prizes, so
I could see her getting in, certainly. I just was like kind of, I don't know, the release date and the very late vibes just kind of threw me off, honestly.
I mean, I think like the release date would affect the show more than her, like she's like immune to the release date. I mean, she got in last time without the show getting in.
I know. No, I know that, but I felt like we're worried about visibility on these shows. She could get in again, obviously, because she's like a past nominee. I think this is a more crowded field than that year, right? Obviously, too. I don't know. I just was like, between the release date being so late and the way they're kind of splitting the season, I don't know. I just was like kind of thrown off by it. I had her in here too when we did this earlier, but not now. And you don't have Uzo Aduba either.
No, I can see Uzo getting in if The Residents really takes off, and obviously she's another fave, 3-time winner.
That's why I put her in, yeah. So, and I feel like people watch it.
Yeah, I just kept her out for now because it was like, I'll just, like I usually just keep what I already have.
Yeah.
Instead of rolling the dice on something I don't have a ton of data on yet.
Tell me you're thinking for which will make the Selenators happy, Selena Gomez.
Well, again, she's someone else who I already had in for months.
Sure.
So I have not dropped her yet. She got in last year, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And then the double SAG wins for the show.
So the show is so strong, you think she could get in again. And maybe they're just going to check her off at this point. Maybe. Could work.
I mean, like, why don't you have her?
I just was like, I'm not sure. I don't know. I was like, I think the field is more. I think last year she got in because of the field more so. Like we were saying last year at this time, like if she can't get in this field, she'll never get in, basically, right? Like that kind of thing. And I just think it's a stronger field than she had last year. So.
But like, isn't that just projecting the strength as well?
True. It could be. I mean, and I'm banking on like newer shows getting in, right? So like I'm saying like Tina Fey and Uzo Aduba would have more sway here because of their past history with the Emmys on these new shows. Maybe that's foolish. Maybe
right,
she gets
but if they don't care about the shows, then they're not going to nominate the people from it.
True.
Like we know they care about Only Murders.
Right. If The Residents isn't, I'm banking on that they'll care about these shows. That's how I'm approaching this. So if The Residents isn't something they care about or the Four Seasons, then I would put Selena in for sure. But I think if they're all on the same level of care, I think she would maybe be third behind these other two.
I also wonder like how much apathy plays into it because we know people just watch less and less now, just in general. So it's like, I've been watching Only Murders for 4 seasons now, and like I voted for her last time.
Right.
I had to fill out my ballot. Yeah.
Right. I just already know she's in because I'm like kind of over this. I'm just gonna fill it out. Maybe. How about other people we didn't mention? Catherine Hahn, very high in the odds for Agatha all along.
I I don't know. I don't have her, obviously, but I feel like that show was just like buzzy when it aired. And then I mean, Marvel is going through it.
Are they? Haven't noticed. Is something going on there?
And then I personally feel like the show came out a little too late.
Yeah, it did. We talked about this, I think, when it came out, just like how it felt like sometimes when these things take too long, it's a little like, I mean, I think Agatha All Along was more successful than this example I'm going to give, but I don't know if you saw Mickey 17, Joyce, but woof, not my fave. And part of the reason is it felt like all of the stuff it was satirizing was maybe 18 months too late. Now I know it was held over and kind of delayed for other reasons, and it's not that would have fixed all the issues, but it felt just too late. And same with, like you're saying, like Agatha All Along, it kind of felt the same thing.
Yeah, I feel like it would have been better had it aired closer to when WandaVision ended. And I mean, obviously, the strikes and everything delayed it as well. But it's been 4 years since WandaVision. That's a whole Olympic cycle.
Yeah.
So
that's longer than Severance. Bridget Everett, Somebody Somewhere.
Like a Hail Mary.
A lot of good names here, but I just don't know. Like we're saying, like Etoile, Charlotte Gainsbourg, maybe. I don't know. It depends. Like a lot. It depends on these shows. I feel like I don't think they're going to break through though in the acting categories, but I could be wrong.
I mean, well, like last year, the other nominees who are not eligible this year were Maya Rudolph and Kristen Wiig.
So they went with who they.
We know they love Maya. We know they love Maya, and then Palm Royale also got into series too.
So if they go with what they knew and like what we talked about there, then maybe I should drop Kristen Bell and put Selena in. I'm going to do that. I'm going to keep Tina Fey and Uzo Aduba because like I just think they're going to go with like if Maya could get in for Loot, there's like really no reason Tina Fey wouldn't get in for the fourth season. Frankly, I just don't.
But Maya has had a more successful run this I was gonna say century, this decade.
I know
since 2020.
I know.
Since
obviously,
then, I mean, like they never even nominated Tina for Kimmy Schmidt, and she was great on Kimmy Schmidt.
The best on Kimmy Schmidt, but this is she's like
only murders, So
yeah, but she's like the lead on this. Anyway, I'll put Selena in, and then I'll drop Kristen Bell. Sorry, Kristen Bell. Actor Joyce. Maybe less fraud. I don't know. I don't have the top 6. I have the 6 of the top 7 though. I've got Martin Short for Only Murders, SAG winner. Jeremy Allen White for The Bear. Adam Brody, Nobody Wants This. Ted Danson for A Man on the Inside. Seth Rogen for The Studio. And Jason Segel for Shrinking.
I have Marty, Jeremy, Jason, Steve Martin, Adam Brody, and Seth.
Nice. So you don't have Ted?
I do not.
Interesting.
I have Steve, and you don't have Steve. I mean, obviously, Steve is the weaker of the Martys.
Yes.
But he did manage to get back in last time. And again, emboldened by its SAG performance this year.
You'll put him in.
I mean, I already had him in even before SAG. I just kept him in here. So I never put Ted in. No offense to Ted, just because I feel like this is a crowded field with like potential series contenders in the studio, and Nobody Wants This. And it like A Man on the Inside is basically like an acting.
It's just a Ted show, basically.
So like he would be like Maya for Loot, right?
Yes.
So I'm just like erring on the side of a stronger show in Only Murders and potentially stronger shows in the studio. Nobody Wants This.
It's funny because when we do supporting actor and actress, I actually had the same thinking for Only Murder. Like I went hard on Only Murders in those categories.
You have Meryl?
No, but we'll talk about that in a minute. But I was like, I kind of could see what you're saying. I just was like, I'm not. I just think like Marty Short has elevated so far above Steve for whatever reason, like in the show, right? Even though I don't think that's true if you watch the show, but it just feels like.
Well, I mean, because Charles is the straight man. Like, I mean, obviously he was dropped already before from the Emmys,
that's why
but he made it back in.
But what you're saying about the show strength makes a lot of sense to me. So I'm banking on Ted being strong on his own. The people love him, and he's really good on the show. And then maybe he gets in, but maybe Steve just gets in, like you're saying, because people are just kind of not thinking, and they're like, "Well, I liked Only Murders. I'm just going to put Steve."
I do think not that I think like everyone in the industry is like paying attention to other award shows and stuff, but I do think like the show winning SAG, like especially Ensemble, was like kind of a big deal, you know. And then there was like all the love fest for Marty's because he wasn't there for his individual win.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, Selena opened a speech by saying like, we never win.
Yeah, it
You
was
know?
great. We'll talk about after we go through this. I want to go back and we could double and talk about like win competitive shows. But let's talk about the two Apple guys. Jason Segel, who was a nominee for the first season, so seemingly should get in for a second season where he was much stronger, I think, and the show was better. And then Seth Rogen, who was really hilarious on the studio. I had some pause just because I was like, man, Seth Rogen has never been like, in doing this kind of comedy, never been taken seriously as an awards contender, I would say, right? Would you agree with that? It's not like, like he's so funny. It is very much like a Seth Rogen comedy performance in this show. But I do think he'll get in because I think the show's going to be super strong.
I mean, we've talked about the show before and how you really have to vibe with the Seth energy.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's a lot of it in the studio. But I mean, he was already nominated for Pam and Tommy, remember? So this is he's broken through with them. With
I guess what I'm saying is he's broken through, but with not like, this is like Seth doing like Apatow comedy stuff at times in this, that he has historically not been taken seriously as an awards performer for. Pam and Tommy, though he is hilarious on it, I think has the patina of like higher brow enterprise.
I mean, I think Pam and Tommy is more in the Apatow vein than the studio is. Like, the studio has more of a prestige sheen.
Well, yeah, because it's about the industry.
Pam and Tommy. Like, Pam and Tommy has a talking penis. Like, Sebastian Stan talking to his penis. So, come on.
Okay. Fair.
So, like, it's again, like we talked about before, like, the studio is very much like Inside Baseball. So, like, I don't know how much it'll land with normies who watch the show, because there's just a lot of like industry speak and like inside jokes that like normies might not get. But in terms of the industry and the Emmys, those people will get them, right? And they might appreciate them and like them and laugh. So, but it is like there's a lot of like manic energy in every episode. Like every episode, there's a crisis of some sort, and Seth is freaking out.
It's fantastic. He's really, really good on it. I have them both, man. I think they'll both get in. I was just like, I see what you're saying about Steve, and maybe Ted misses, but for now I'm going to keep Ted and have Steve missing. According to the odds, Jason Segel would miss. Do you think, is it possible that I guess anything's possible, but like, do you think that would actually happen? Like, is he vulnerable?
No, I mean, like, he got in last time, and you could say he's the one who bumped Steve out last time, right? Because he was underpredicted last time. So, no, I think, like, Shrinking has done what it's needed to do this winter, basically. Mm-hmm. So, like, it's done better than Nobody Wants This at the Guilds.
Correct.
So I think, I mean, he got in last, like, he and Jessica Williams got in last time. So I think he's probably fine. I mean, like, last year, like, Matt Berry got in. Mm-hmm. I feel like he'll be squeezed out this year. And then Defar Wunatai, who's obviously not eligible this year. And Mary David, too, also got in. So
other contenders, like you said, Matt Berry still here, right? Steve Carell for the 4 seasons. I could see, I mean, it's such an ensemble. I don't know what they're going to actually position everybody as, but like, it's a very much an ensemble. Like, Tina would be the lead, I think, but you could say like Will Forte could be here too, right? Like, and same with Steve. I don't think it's hard for me to imagine like him breaking in here, but maybe Luke Kirby for a Trois, Joyce.
Emmy winner Luke Kirby.
Depends on the show. Nathan Lane for Mid-Century Modern.
Sure.
Supporting actress, Joyce, in a comedy. Torn on this one, hardcore. And here's what I ended up with. Hannah Einbinder for Hacks. Just going to manifest that until it happens. Right in first place. Hopefully she wins. Liza Colon-Zayas for The Bear. Cheryl Lee Ralph for Abbott. Catherine O'Hara for The Studio. Jane Lynch for Only Murders in the Building. And then in my last spot, I was coin flipping between Janelle James and Jessica Williams. And I guess I'll go Jessica Williams. I feel like, I'm not sure though she'll get in, because I don't know if she had the show is bigger and more visible, but I think she was actually had more stronger material at times in season 1, but that she got in for season 1 and the show is better. I think she'll make it in. And I was trying to drop Janelle last year. I just feel like Abbott is going to start shedding some nominations, even though it's still good. And so I'll keep her out for now.
But you were trying so hard to anti-dict Janelle last year.
I feel bad because then people are going to be like, you don't like Janelle. She's so funny on the show. But
no, that's not a anti-dicting. It's not a like. Well, I mean, if you're
due respect,
you can anti-dicting does take into account some personal bias. But if you're dropping someone for statistical reasons or non-bias, that's fine.
It's not biased. The show is you could argue it has always underperformed, right? Would you agree with that? Or not it's not as performed as strong as its fans probably would want. Abbott.
I think its issue is it struggled to expand in acting. So
I could see her dropping, especially also because again, I'm not sure does the material matter? I guess maybe it doesn't, but I was just I don't know. I'm she's really funny this season, but maybe not as strong as she was. The material, not as much to do. I don't know. I feel bad. And maybe if this is 7 slots, I would feel better. But
it could go back to 7 slots.
Right. My wild card is Jane Lynch, just because I feel like she's so good in this season of Only Murders and is a past, obviously, Emmy fave. So I think she would get over Meryl, who is here, but is really only in 2 episodes. So I don't think she'll get nominated.
Meryl is a guest star in season 4, but she is forced to compete here because of the new Emmy rule.
Yes.
It's the Claire Foy rule.
And
so once you've been nominated, once you've been in lead or supporting, you have to stay there, even if
and
you're
she's
a guest.
Meryl, and everybody loves Meryl Streep. I don't know though. Do you think she'll get in for that? Will they just name check her in? I guess I'll find out when you do your predictions here.
I don't have her. No, I have Hannah, Liza, Cheryl Lee Ralph, Jessica Williams, Janelle James, and my girl Megan Stalter, who I got at 100-1.
Wow. I had her in so much last year. I think I ended up predicting her in the end that they would go double hacks, and it didn't happen. I was so heartbroken because she's so funny. Now, you've seen these new episodes and can't talk about them, but did anything how about this? Did anything in the new episodes embolden you to suggest that maybe she'll get in this year when she hasn't gotten in previously?
I will say I had her in before I saw the new episodes.
Okay.
So
now Catherine O'Hara is interesting to me because I think she's not in the studio as much as maybe you would imagine. She comes in hard towards the end of the season, but there's a large part of the season where she is not really in it because this is not I don't think any of this is spoilers, and the show's on this week as you're watching this, but she basically plays the old studio boss who Seth is, who worked so close to the Seth.
She's the outgoing head. Yeah.
Right. She's not playing Amy Pascal, Joyce, in the show.
You know what? She has a great house on the show. Great,
fantastic
beautiful view.
And so she's great in our opening episode. She kind of is she's with Seth, and she shows up sporadically throughout as a producer, and then comes in hard towards the end as well. Man, she's hilarious on the show, and I just was I feel like people are going to really respond to that performance, and that's why she would get in. But obviously, you don't have her. And then for Jane Lynch, like I said, I just think she's great on this season, Only Murders, and could get in. And I'll be bullish. I mean,
Catherine is basically a special guest star on the show.
She's in it more than Meryl is in Only Murders, but she's not in it as much as any of the other.
No, she's not part of. She's not in the regular billing of the cast. She's a special guest star, and she is eligible here.
Or she's arguably maybe not even in as much as Jane Lynch is in Only Murders. Jane Lynch, I think, had more in Only Murders, probably in screen time.
I also remember when the studio was first announced and she was cast, I think people assumed she'd be the lead, coldly, and I'm
yes.
It's like Catherine Hahn has a bigger part in the studio than Catherine does.
I think that's probably true. Other people I just for sure.
Yeah.
I thought of. I would love her to get in. She's so funny.
Yeah, I had that last spot. So I thought about Catherine. I'm only doing Seth right now for the studio people. It has a lot of non-potential, but I'm gonna wait to see how the show lands first once it's out before I expand.
Yeah. The reason I went to Catherine over Catherine's obviously an Emmy winner also. And I was just everyone on the show is fantastic. You mentioned Catherine Hahn is really great. I love Ike Barinholtz, I think, is absolutely hilarious on it. But I was just like, it's so ensemble-y. I think that they're probably not going to break through individually, but I feel like Catherine would because she's Catherine O'Hara. If it was not Catherine O'Hara in that part and it was somebody else, I'm not sure that she would make it in. But I'm also like, I think they like who they like, and maybe they'll like her. How about other people you mentioned? Abby Elliott for the Bear. I think there was at one point maybe people thought she could get in for her big episode.
I mean, like, we all predicted her last year.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, The Bear season 3, it has kind of like died in the winter. Like, I mean, it was still nominated in most places. You know, it only got that one nomination at Critics' Choice for Liza,
Mm-hmm.
but it has, you know, failed to win anything substantial. Like, Jeremy got the Globe three-peat just because they didn't care about anyone else in the category, right? But it really bombed everywhere else, so it just kind of feels like it'll, like, the show will get in and I'll get like these acting nominations, but I don't know about the coattails beyond the obvious people.
I agree. And let's do supporting actor, and then we can talk about like what is going to win these, I guess, or whatever. But so supporting actor, I have Harrison Ford for Shrinking, Paul W. Downs for Hacks, Ebon Moss-Bachrach for The Bear, Michael Urie for Shrinking, Zach Galifianakis for Only Murders in the Building, and then Tyler James Williams for Abbott.
Okay. I have Evan, PWD, TJ Dubs, Harrison, Michael Urie, and I have Bowen Yang, which this is the top 6 in the odds, which I do not like.
And you never picks SNL because you don't like SNL.
No, but you know, I had Bowen. It's not that I don't like SNL. Okay. I don't watch SNL, which is a difference. I have nothing against SNL. I don't watch SNL.
Okay,
so
sure.
You're spreading lies here.
It's not really a lie. It's just different information. If you liked it, wouldn't you watch it? But it's okay.
No, I mean, I have nothing against SNL.
Okay.
Like, I've seen, I don't watch the show, and I've never seen a full episode. I've told you this before. I've only watched episodes up through Weekend Update. I've never seen a full 90-minute SNL.
So you have the top 6 of Bowen. So why'd you go to Bowen here?
Well, again, I had Bowen in months ago.
Okay.
So like, I feel like I'm just setting the odds here because I put him in because I needed a 6th person like 2 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
And so he got in last year.
Mm-hmm.
So I just kept him basically.
We have the other 5 of the 6. So I have Zach Galifianakis. I'm bullish on Only Murders because of the way it's performed, and I think he is absolutely the standout of the supporting people in this season, and that he's so much with Marty Short, I also think will help because he's so funny in those scenes with Marty. It's just a great performance. I thought he was like so funny in this season. So I'm kind of going on just sheer talent here. I think people were like, you have Bowen Yang as 6 in the odds, like you said. That's the top 6. 7th is Brett Goldstein for Shrinking. There was a time when I almost thought of putting him in, but I was like, is Shrinking going to get 3 nominations? It just felt like a lot. And also, I think he's fantastic on the show, playing a completely off-type character, like totally the opposite of Roy Kent. But I think a large part of the reason why he was so successful in Ted Lasso was so successful and he was so successful in this category is because people really loved Roy Kent. And I don't think you have that kind of affection for Lewis on Shrinking. You more pity that character. So I was like, I don't think he's going to maybe break through and be a 3rd Shrinking nominee here.
Yeah, I don't know if like Shrinking is that strong. I mean, Harrison didn't even get in last time. You know,
right. I think he'll get in this time. It would be pretty shocking if he didn't, to be honest.
Yeah, he got the SAG nomination. So I mean, it would be cool if Shrinking was able to get 3 spots, but it doesn't feel like that type of, or it doesn't feel as strong as like, you know, like a show like Ted or you know, something that would get so many or more than 2 nominations in the category. And again, they could go up to 7 spots again, depending on the number of submissions. So that's more room for people like Brett and like Ike Barinholtz, you know. I mean, like the Only Murders guest cast, I thought about them, and then I just didn't pick any of them because I had to move on. I was like, I don't want to think about this. So that's why I did Bowen.
I totally get it. I mean, like I said, like I think Jane gets in. My reasons for Jane are that she's like Jane Lynch and is obviously so successful at the Emmys, and Zach just being so funny. Like, there's really no other reason. I'm just like, man, he was so funny on this season. And yeah, I just think it is. The shrinking cast member I would actually love to see get in is Ted McGinley, but I don't know if like it wouldn't. It just feels like too far of a field, I think, from the main like people that people are considering. But he is so good on this season of Shrinking, and obviously like a TV legend.
What if they just go back to Paul Rudd?
They very well could.
Who is a guest star.
He is a guest star, and he does a funny accent, sure. Like we said, like Will Forte, if he's here, or like lead, whatever, or Steve Carell from Four Seasons, I think both would be strong. Eugene Levy for Only Murders, but I thought Zach was maybe more ascendant. Matt Bomer for Mid-Century Modern, Joyce?
I don't know. You could do it.
No, I'm not, but I'm just asking. To Timothy Simons for Nobody Wants This, he's hilarious.
He is, but again, it's really just been Kristen and Adam who's been consistent. Mm-hmm. Like the show's not even consistent in hitting places. So,
did you give any thought to dropping Tyler James Williams?
No.
Okay.
See, you're anti-dicting Abbott.
No, I'm not. I have him in. I'm asking the question.
I know, but you're trying to.
No,
you say I hate SNL, you hate Abbott.
No, I don't hate Abbott. I like Abbott. He's fifth in the odds. I was just asking questions, Joyce. That's all we're doing here. It's us and Aaron Rodgers just asking questions, right?
Just asking questions because you want reason to justify dropping him.
I'm not dropping him. I'm not dropping him.
No, but you're thinking about it. You're thinking about it.
I'm thinking about dropping all of them, but I'm not going to do it. How about Michael Urie getting in as an add-on for Shrinking?
I mean, I
won the Critics' Choice. I know, like he's very. I think he's very memorable, obviously, in the show too. So that helps. All right. So before we wrap up here, then in the comedy fields, Joyce. So, what is going to win? Like Hacks is in first in the odds. We're all expecting it to win. If it's not Hacks, what would you say is win competitive here amongst the competitors?
I don't know. I don't like thinking about winners at this time.
I know.
I mean, I have the Bear in second, but I don't think anyone like that's not because I think it's second to win. I think it's like the next likely to be nominated. Like I think that what you have, the order you have stuff in phase one is not necessarily what you think is going to win. Like maybe for some categories it is. Like I would say like having Hacks at number one. Yes, I do think it will likely repeat this year. But if it doesn't, just because I have the Bear in second, it doesn't necessarily mean like I think the Bear is runner up. I think it's probably the next safest to get in. But I mean, you could argue that like Only Murders because it won SAG Ensemble.
That's what I was thinking.
It's never won an above the line Emmy before.
Mm-hmm.
So
let me give you this scenario. This is what I was wondering, and you can't say yes or no on Hacks because I know we're not allowed. I don't want you to get in trouble. But let's just looking at last year. Part of the reason why Hacks season 3 was fantastic, right? Like everyone said, like best season yet. It was so great, and then we were like, oh, it's going to shame that it's going to lose to the Bear maybe season 2, which was also really good, though still not a comedy, and like all that discourse that we've talked endlessly about. And then the Bear season 3 came and it wasn't very good, or at least was more polarizing. I enjoyed it, but like people did not like it clearly and they jumped ship, combined with the second season not being a comedy and Hacks being so great. All these things added up to Hacks winning. I guess my thinking is like you're saying, like the Bear is certainly getting in for series, right? And like we don't know what's going to, like it would not miss based on everything. So it's going to get in for series. Imagine the show's 4th season, 3 months from now when it comes out, is so great and people are like, it's back. Does that can it actually, even if it gets less nominations, maybe it ends up winning for the 3rd season that no one liked? Like, I guess I just was like, is that possible? I agree with you. I think Only Murders maybe has more of a shot if Hacks doesn't win, but I was also like, what if the Bear rebounds because the 4th season is great and ends up winning for a 3rd season that people didn't really enjoy as much as the 2nd season, which lost?
I think even if it rebounds and season 4 is the best season ever, I think there is still the issue of tone with it. I do think that was like a big part of why it also lost.
Yeah.
And I don't think their tone is ever going to change, right?
No, the bear is the
Um,
bear. It's not going to be a funny
yeah,
show.
yeah. It's not going to be 30 Rock.
No, it's
So,
not going to
or
be
the
Ted
Four
Lasso.
Seasons.
It's not going
Yeah.
to be this.
Ted Lasso coming back in like 2027, season 4.
It's not going to
So,
be The Residents or any. It's not going to be any of these comedies. There's going to be no comedies.
right.
So
I mean, like we talked about this last year, even though, I mean, we both knew last year, like Hacks was winning writing.
yes,
But like, like you always said last year, like it was like Hacks is going to win and it's not going to be the Bear also because like it's writers voting for the winners
yes,
and like they have the most issues with the tone of the Bear,
correct.
you know? So, and then I feel like, the tone is not going to change. And then I think it's just like, you can't ignore the past either. It's like, you already know that it lost to a real, like,
Right.
haha, funny comedy already. So I don't know. I mean, I'm sure some people, like, if you love the Bear, then you love the Bear. You'll probably just vote for it. But I don't know if like season 4 being exemplary would really like elevate
Mm.
it over Hacks, who could have an even better season 4,
Right. We don't
right?
know. Maybe it's even
So
better, or even Only Murders, which I thought was a great season, and it was like is now like you're saying, like now it's like one of the things I feel like, and this happened with Hacks and The Bear, and maybe even Only Murders, is like by Hacks winning, it gave people permission to move off the Bear, right? We talked about
yes,
this like in the
yeah.
winter, and then we saw that play out. Like it did not do well in the winter.
And we
The
were
Bear,
expecting like last spring, like I mean, I certainly was saying that I think the Bear might still win the Emmy for season 2 in September. But like season 3 of Hacks being so great, and then coupled with season 3 of the Bear being divisive, I can see Hacks sweeping the winter.
and
You
then
know,
it didn't sweep the winter, but
it
they didn't go to the Bear either, right? And so like it gave them permission to not pick the Bear, and I'm wondering like because Only Murders beat Hacks at SAG, I'm like, does that give them permission to go off Hacks a little? I don't know. I mean, I'll be curious to see.
No, because I mean, I don't think the SAG ensemble loss means anything for Hacks. Like I was always when we were doing like our SAG predictions, I was always like wary of having Hacks in first there anyway, just because like that group is so basic, right? And
Mm-hmm.
Hacks is not like I love the actors in the show, but it's not really like ensemble, and it like the appeal is not as broad, right, as something like Only Murders too. So um and then I also wonder, I mean, like, Gene still won, like I do wonder if like it is kind of seen as like a Gene vehicle more so than like an ensemble, like it's still on
Yeah,
comedy series everywhere else, right? So
yeah, um, yeah. I'll be curious to see, and I'm like I said at the top. I love this. This is a great field of comedy to me. I'm just like weighing on all these shows. It was hard to like these shows are all really good. I just feel like this is a good season for
I mean,
Emmys.
what if it's the studio or the Four Seasons, a new show winning?
So I was thinking about this literally yesterday, and I was like, I have to bring this up with Joyce. And, like we have to wrap up, but I wanted to bring like I do wonder like we're reticent to pick new shows. I feel like because they're new, and like we've talked about, like it's hard to break through, and the visibility is a big issue, and there's old habits, and people are just going to kind of be lazy, and they're only going to watch what they know, and all that. But I'm like, all these shows were new shows at one point, right? Like Hacks and The Bear, and recently, like it's not like these are even old
Well, ted
shows.
ted and the Bear both won for their first seasons, but they were phenomenons.
And so, like, I guess the question is now, even how fast things move. Is anything ever going to be a phenomenon again in this field? Like, like the studio is not going to be a phenomenon, but I do think it could be like a major phenomenon within Hollywood. And I think that could help it win. I do. Like, I mean, like you said, it's not for normies, but I think only because they're not going to maybe appreciate some of the name drops and jokes, but it is still like a Seth Rogen comedy. It's very funny. So I think like people could watch it and appreciate that aspect of it. Maybe it wins. I don't know. I would not surprise. I guess I would say it would not surprise me if one of these new shows broke through. I would feel like less certain of the Four Seasons, not because of any quality, just because it's not that kind of show. Like I didn't watch it and think like, oh, like this has that kind of amazing breakout potential. It's something like Studio, which I think does maybe.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, like there are several shows here too that are like industry adjacent.
Hacks,
you
certainly.
know, yeah, like I mean, especially the season, like it's
And
set
Only
in LA,
Murders.
you know,
Right.
like with the late night show. Yeah, Only Murders, you know, they were making a movie last season,
Playing
so
themselves. That's what made it so
yeah.
funny. It is a lot of industry loving the industry. Nothing more than the studio, though, which is the most
The
industry
studio,
loving show.
yeah, and like that, the studio's also a little bit more biting about it, you know.
I think the studio, to me, I think one of the things, we're not really, we're industry adjacent, I would say, Joyce. Like, we're not like, you know, I'm not hobnobbing with Matt Bellany. I would say, like, it's the kind of show, reminded me a little, remember how White Lotus, we were like, oh, it's like the show, people it's satirizing also were laughing at it because they kind of don't think they're like what the show is satirizing. I feel like that's similar to the studio, where it's like the people I think who will find it funny and biting are also like, it's enough of, they're going to separate it enough that it's not so cruel, right? You know what I mean? Like, I think certain like Hollywood satires could be like, you know, a little more mean spirited this, but like having the executives being like the stars, they're actually humanizing the executives more maybe than,
Yeah, like Ted Sarandos is in it, so
like he's in it, and like, but Seth is playing an executive, you know, so like they're all executives, they're all creative executives, and it's coming from a place of empathy of them wanting to do good work and the challenges it takes to do good work. Seth said that at like the South by Southwest premiere. It was, I think one of his quotes was like, people are always like, how do you make like, how could they make so many shitty movies? And it's like, the actual question is, how do you even make a good one? Because it's so impossible to make anything good. And so like, I do think that's going to, people are going to really appreciate that within the industry. So I honestly could see it winning, but I'm not ready to go there yet. But I wouldn't be surprised if one of these new shows broke through it, if that was the one.
yeah, I guess it's like, I mean, we have to wait and see like how big, if it becomes too, because you know, I mean, like Ted, you know, that, I mean, that was a COVID show too. It just also made people feel good
Right.
during that time. And then The Bear just was a word of mouth hit.
And we'll have to see with the studio.
So now, and that it also premiered in the summer, so had like way more of a runway to build up momentum for the Emmys the following year too.
And last thing here before we wrap up, I would say like the other thing is like the Hacks was, like we said, like Hacks is the best. The third season of Hacks was as good as any show I think I've seen that's not Succession in like the last like few years. That said, it was also, I think it also won, like we talked about, not just because people loved it, but because there was a backlash to The Bear, not just because of The Bear's third season, but because it's not a comedy, right? So like it was like a perfect storm of events that I think helped Hacks win. And now that doesn't necessarily mean it will automatically repeat, I guess. So that's why I could see something like The Studio is also hilarious. And like, you know, like these are actual comedies now, Only Murders as well, that are now people maybe have more permission to choose. So I'll be curious to see. I'm not like, I have Hacks in first. I think it's definitely the front runner, but I would, if it doesn't win, I guess I would not be completely surprised if something else did. Sight unseen.
No, and then even like last year, when like we all thought Hacks would lose for season 3, we thought that would just be a good stepping stone with how great season 3 was for it to win in season 4.
Correct.
You know, so now it can win back to back. So
good. All right, Joyce, email us at slugfest. Not you, but this is for listeners. Email us at slugfest@gold. Joyce, you can email us too. Email us at slugfest.
I'll make a burner.
Email us at slugfest@goldderby.com. If you're watching on YouTube, like and subscribe. We love that. Leave a comment, something nice, I hope. And we'll be back next week to talk about the limited series categories, Joyce.
Which has gotten slightly stronger.
Can't wait. We'll talk about it then. All right, bye. Thanks for listening to Awards Magnet, a Gold Derby podcast. Like what you heard? Leave us a review wherever you listen to podcasts. Awards Magnet is produced by Andrew Merrill. Our logo is designed by Chelsea Sikora. Please like and subscribe to stay on top of all the awards news and email us at slugfests@goldderby.com.